time to join us this morning. My name is Amanda Miller-Lau, and I'm an account manager at Unity. I specialize in senior living. First, I would just like to review some housekeeping. We will have a live question and answer at the end of the presentation. Please put your questions into the chat and we will answer them at that time. Also, this session is being recorded and we will send out a copy of the presentation to you.
Thank you for joining, everyone. My name is Jack Speranza and I lead the senior living team here at Unity. We have a special guest joining us today, Chris Prada from SARA Solutions. Welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks, Jack and Amanda. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on your call. I am Chris Prada with SARA Solutions. I'm the territory manager. I joined the company in 2010 and previously come with over 30 years of experience in the technology industry.
We're going to start and briefly talk about Unity Connected Solutions. Unity is a privately owned national company. Our head office and call center is located in Newmarket, Ontario. We have a branch office in Burlington to serve the Southwestern Ontario needs, and offices across the country in Montreal, Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. We also have some U.S. presence in Phoenix, Arizona. Unity has been in business since 2004. We started as Unity Telecom, and it has evolved over the years and became Unity Connected Solutions in 2014, as all technologies have come together. Unity prides itself on excellent customer service. Our call center is open 24/7, 365 days a year, which is good to know that if there is a problem, Unity can always be reached.
8 years ago, Unity started a senior living division, which I lead. It includes its own sales, design, technical support, project managers, and a technical lead. We help senior living communities across Canada with their e-call systems, telephony, data networking, security, which includes door access and cameras, SD-WAN, and infrastructure cabling. Chris, maybe you can take a few minutes just to talk a little bit more about SARA Solutions for everyone.
Check. So as I mentioned earlier, I joined SARA in 2010. The company was originally founded in 2001 with a vision to make a difference in seniors' lives. What's unique about SARA Solutions is we look at the entire community and not just one aspect of the technology. We work with technology partners like Unity, who has been our #1 provider and partner for many years. Through this partnership, SARA Solutions, in moving into Canada, became the #1 provider of emergency call notification solutions from coast to coast. We continue to innovate, and we have led the market with new technologies and strategies to improve seniors' lives. Jack?
So today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on the SARA Solutions SARA system. Unity has been, as Chris said, the top Canadian value-added reseller for SARA Solutions for the last 3 years. And we have found that the SARA system we've installed across hundreds of communities works well in a variety of ways. Jack and Chris, would you like to start with an overview of the SARA system? And then we'll get into detail throughout the presentation.
Thanks, Amanda. Like Amanda said, we've installed the SARA system in many locations across Canada. And while the SARA system is at the root of it a mass notification system, we've been utilizing it as a nurse call system in these communities. That means pendants and pull cords, which we'll get into greater detail as we continue the presentation. One of the major benefits to the SARA system is that it is a wireless system that is separate of the customer's network. It runs on its own infrastructure. I'll hand it over to Chris to maybe touch on some more capabilities of the SARA system.
Thanks, Jack. So really, when you think of the SARA system, at its core, it is a platform for handling monitoring, alerting, and reporting on every aspect of the senior living space, whether it's related to environmentals, security, life safety, mass notification. The platform really ties everything together within your community so that a resident, when they need help, whether it's related to personal needs, injury, slip and falls, but also environmentals, protecting seniors, making sure their space is comfortable, monitoring of the security system and other disparate systems within your solution, it ties everything together so that it works as a single solution.
Thank you, Chris. Today, we're going to start with life safety. Here, you can see on the slide a layout of a campus. There's a long-term care home in the middle, surrounded by seniors' apartments. Throughout the campus, you can see dots. The dots represent SARA repeaters. A picture of the repeater is on the top left-hand side of the slide. These repeaters are placed throughout the community. The repeaters only require electrical power, and we suggest they're on the backup generator, although there are 8 hours of backup battery in the repeaters if required. This is a separate network in the building, and this provides the basis of the SARA emergency response system. The number of the repeaters depends on the community layout. If your community requires pendants for your residents, our technicians will work with the community and the floor plans to understand what you call every part of the building to make sure everything is named properly in the building, so when somebody presses a pendant, it gives the correct location. By having locations given to the staff member, this saves time when a resident needs help. We've also put pendants into locations for staff. It's the same idea, but perhaps you have a resident who's aggressive. By having the staff member wear a pendant, they can call for help when required. Chris, perhaps you can go into detail about the pendants we can use in the communities.
Thanks, Amanda. So on the status platform, we have a variety of pendants. Amanda's showing 3 versions here. The pendants, depending on the need, different form factors and different functionalities best suit the application. So we have the wrist lanyard type of pendant. These pendants are the most common used for residents in long-term care, assisted, and independent living facilities. These are the pendants at the bottom of the screen. These are waterproof. They can be used in the shower. They can even be used in a swimming pool. The pendant at the top, the smaller white pendant, this pendant is ideal where you might have residents that could be at risk of wandering, not quite to the point of memory care or in a dementia ward, but as people health changes and you need a little bit closer monitoring, this device is checking in every 3 minutes. So we're able to identify if that person leaves the property, if that person is in areas that they should not be. And the last pendant, which you're seeing in the upper left-hand corner, this is actually a 2-way voice badge, primarily used by caregivers. It's an intelligent device. It allows the caregiver to request the system to look up details such as call Mrs. Smith's doctor. There is intelligence built in to identify who that person is from voice codes. It also provides an emergency call. So in the event of duress or an emergency, I can tap the button or simply speak emergency. One thing common with all of these devices is the system is monitoring them in real time. It is looking to ensure that the device is functional so that when needed, the device works. So we have a pendant for every need, whether it's for staff, independent, long-term care, or even people that are starting to have changes to their health. Amanda?
Perfect. The reality in some of these communities is that sometimes a resident will leave the room and might take off their pendant. And another way we help secure the building is using pull cords. A lot of the places we see pull cords in independent living is usually the suite washrooms. However, in long-term care and other communities, we see pull cords placed by the bedside. Sometimes the resident likes to sit in a chair in their living room and stay there for most of the day. So we would put a pull cord chair side. We see a lot of pull cords in the common areas. So a lot of these communities are beautiful and have tons of common areas, spa rooms and movie theaters. And a lot of the times the common areas are also in the basement. And so we've seen pull cords placed throughout the community as well, just for an additional feature. One of the best benefits about these pull cords is, one, they're wireless. So that means you can place them anywhere. Maybe the resident's needs change. So at first they only wanted the pull cord bedside, but like I said, maybe they've decided now that they're mobile and they can move to a chair, or they can move to another room within their suite. You can move the pull cord and it takes just minutes to change the programming. You can program the pull cord to say anything you would like. So if at first when you pulled it, it sent an alert saying suite bedroom 101, but now you wanted to say chair next to the TV, pull cord takes literally a few seconds to change the programming and to move the pull cord. Amanda, I'll hand it back over to you to talk about some other devices.
Thanks, Jack. As with the, as with the pull cords Jack has described, there's also wireless wall buttons available. We've seen these in a number of locations. Our first example, we have a community who has a smoker. She lives on the assisted living floor and requires a staff member to take her downstairs in a wheelchair so she can smoke. They bring her down and sit outside, and when she's finished, she presses her pendant, and the staff will go and get her. The executive director at this community was concerned that since the resident was smoking, and that's what the staff knew she was doing, that when she pressed her pendant, the staff didn't go very quickly. But what if it was an emergency? So the solution was we put a wall button in the area that she smokes, and she presses the wall button when she's finished. The staff knows by the alert it's the wall button that's pressed. But if she presses her pendant, they know they need to move very quickly as it's an emergency. Another location we have seen a wall button is in a laundry area and a large retirement home. The staff must go and remove the lint from the dryers in the resident area. The general manager was concerned that the lint wasn't being removed. They have a sheet of paper that needs to be initialed each day when the staff member removes the lint, but it wasn't necessarily done. However, by the end of the month, it was magically filled out. Perhaps the staff member didn't have a pen to initial the form, or maybe they didn't clear the lint out. The general manager just didn't know. So the solution that we did is we put in the wireless SARA button at the top of the dryer. The residents don't see it, but when the staff member presses the button, when they clear the lint, a report is automatically generated. And we're going to talk more about reports later in the presentation. And another place we put a wall button was in a residence that's in downtown Toronto. The front door is on a main street, and the front desk is inside the door, but the rest of the community is upstairs. So the concierge is by herself. We put a wall button at her desk, so if she required help from someone coming in off the street who was not supposed to, she would be able to get help if required. So there was a safety for the staff member that's there. Chris is now going to talk about motion sensors.
So as we started this discussion, you'll start seeing there's a whole host of various sensors, and all of these sensors can be used for different functions. One of the functions that we have is a motion sensor that can be used for check-in. So something as simple as identifying the resident is up and moving in the morning, the system will automatically log that that resident is safe. If there is no check-in, in other words, no movement in the apartment at a set time in the morning, the system would set off an alert. These motion sensors will not be set off by a cat or a moving curtain. It is actually tuned to the body mass of a person. We have motion sensors that are being used in bathrooms to be able to check that someone is using the bathroom on a regular basis. Motion sensors in other areas with timers attached so that we can ensure that no one is in, for example, the scooter room outside of certain hours. Again, being wireless, You can place these sensors anywhere in your facility to protect a resident or assets as necessary. Amanda?
So I'm just going to jump in here and talk about bed sensors and chair pads for a second. You know, between the three of us, we've gone to a lot of communities over the years, and one of the things we see the most is that these older nurse call systems, while they have pendants and pull cords, anything additional to that seems to have been a separate system. And an example of that is a bed or chair pad. So it's a separate system from their existing nurse call system. And a lot of the times they're expensive and they don't alert through the system. What they do is they just make a loud audible noise. Or it goes back just to the nursing station. So if the staff are not at the station or they're not within earshot of the audible noise, it's often very difficult to react to the alert. Just like all the other devices within the SARA system, the bed and chair pads are wireless, and of course they alert through the system. So that the second that those bed and chair pads are triggered, the alert goes right to the nurses. They know exactly which room, which bed, which chair, and they can react accordingly. Another thing that Chris has seen is that sometimes, even though it's called a bed pad or a chair pad, it's really just a pressure pad. So once the pressure is released, whether the resident is laying on it, standing on it, or sitting on it, once that pressure is released, it will alert. Amanda, maybe you want to talk about door sensors now.
Thank you, Jack. So the wireless door sensor can be used in a variety of places, and they can be put on a time schedule. So most communities have an access control system, but they're doors that are not protected. You can always put the door sensors on any of those doors as they're wireless. We've seen SARA door sensors on balconies, sliding doors in resident suites, and other locations like garbage doors or a roll-up loading door. They can also be used on medicine cabinets and be programmed to go off at a time that nobody's supposed to be in there. Any door that requires protection, such as a fire extinguisher hose or a defibrillator door, any door that requires monitoring, a wireless door sensor can be used. One of the places that we see it most is on resident suite doors. Often there are changes in a resident's health over the years. We see communities work with family to protect their loved ones. What the communities do with the residents who are starting to have memory care issues but aren't ready to move to a memory care floor is to put a door sensor on their suite. Usually, the resident can walk freely during the day in the community, but at night the door sensor will go off if they leave their room. As mentioned, the door sensor can be put on a time schedule, so they can work with the family and have it only go off in the evenings and overnight. The SARA system can also integrate to the community's access control. So it can integrate, so alerts can be sent to whomever requires, knowing that there is a breach in the door, can all work together. And Jack, would you like to talk about fire safety?
Yep, this one's a big one. So a lot of the times in communities, the fire panel, when it does alert, whether it's a in-suite smoke detector or a common area smoke detector, it obviously goes back to the panel, and a lot of the times it only gives zones. You know, zone 1, which may include anywhere from 1 to 2 floors. But with the SARA system, we have the ability to integrate to the fire panel. We also have the ability to integrate directly to the smoke detectors. And what that does is we can give you the exact location of where the smoke detector is an alert from, and it can actually alert multiple staff members all at once. So fire is obviously a big concern. So instead of just alerting the nursing staff, we can send it to the nursing staff, the concierge, all the managers, whether they're on-site or off-site, maintenance staff, housekeeping, and it's instant, and it gives you the exact location. So for example, room 101, smoke detector goes off in the kitchen, you get the alert right away. Smoke detector 101, kitchen. A lot of these communities are very large. They have anywhere from 7 to 15 floors. We've seen buildings as big as 24 floors. And this really helps with the fire safety plan as well, that if there is a major fire, you can quickly get residents out of the building by locating the source immediately and react. And that leads over to fire extinguishers, which now Chris can talk about.
Okay, thanks, Jack. So I hope you're starting to see a trend here that the platform is able to integrate to virtually everything in your facility. One unique area, and this is exclusive to Status Solutions for Canada, is the ability to actually monitor your fire extinguishers themselves. We have a proprietary piece of hardware that we can attach to every fire extinguisher that will monitor the pressure. It will monitor if the device in itself has been moved. It can even monitor if the device has been blocked. So in that safety plan and in making sure that all of your fire extinguishers are accessible and actually functioning, that entire process can now be automated, no longer having to move around and do visual inspections. And even with visual inspections, things change. This is in real time and immediate, ensuring that if that fire extinguisher is needed, it is functional, it is in fact in place, and there's nothing blocking it. So really pleased to launch this. This is brand new in Canada and exclusive to Status Solutions. Thanks, Jack.
Next, we're going to talk about environmental monitoring. How does your residents monitor your refrigeration and boilers? Nurses we've seen when we've been in our site visits usually have to take temperatures in the med fridges at the beginning or the end of their shift. And then your kitchen staff have to make sure that the fridge and freezer in the kitchen is at the correct temperature. Maintenance must check the water temperature of the boilers. What if a staff member could be notified if the temperature is above or below the readings that it was supposed to be? Then medicine would not be lost, food would not be lost in the kitchens, and so on. The SARA environmental monitoring portion of the system allows you to do that and notify whomever it should be. So whether it's the nursing staff, the maintenance staff, the kitchen staff, and so on, they can tell you if the temperature has gone above or below where it's supposed to be. But not only that, you can do automatic reporting. So instead of the nurses having to take the time at the beginning or end of their shift, a report could automatically be done for that checking of the temperature.
So I think more than ever this past year, now a year and a half, communication, especially to families and within staff members, have been more important than ever. So the SARA system, like we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, it has all these abilities, but it also is mass notification. So it has the ability to send out notifications to different types of devices all at once. Cell phones, emails, portable phones, desk sets, text messaging. So within the system, what you could do is you could set up let's say you wanted to notify, there was an outbreak and you want to notify all families, all staff members. You could set up all the contact information for families as one group, all the contact information for your staff members as one group, right from your SARA dashboard, which we'll get into later. You could set up that message and send it out, and it would notify everybody. And then you can also check your reports to see who's accepted or read those messages. Another way that you can use the mass notification to your benefit, a lot of communities are very large. Sometimes they have a lot of staff members on the floor. Sometimes they don't have a lot of staff members on the floor. And sometimes it's hard to know where your staff is. They're taking care of residents. They could be on the 10th floor, the first floor, the parking garage. And, you know, at a lot of these communities, they carry a lot of decked phones. So it's hard to memorize everybody's extension numbers and things like that. Right from your dashboard, again, you could send out a message. Maybe you're the director of wellness and you want everybody to come back for a quick team huddle. Instead of calling everyone individually, let the SARA system do it for you. Type in your message, select your nursing staff. You could create a group that has all their extensions in it and send out the message. And it will the SARA will call each of your staff and relay your message to them. And Chris could talk a little bit more about some of those alerting devices.
Thanks, Jack. So from a point of view of alerting devices, and it really layers over top of what Jack just talked about from mass notification. SARA has the ability to send an alert to any communication device. So it doesn't matter whether it's a text message, an email, an overhead message, digital signage, smartphones, tablets, PCs, even legacy walkie-talkies. When you select a message, the machine is able to identify what is the device I need to send that alert to. And if it needs to speak it, it will do a text-to-speech, or it will send a text message, or it will format it in an email. The point here is really getting the message to who needs to know, whether it is staff, the general community, or even family and loved ones outside of the property. So we have everything from smartphone technology and applications for staff members, digital signage and electronic media for residents, tying into desk phones and PCs for your staff, and even to walkie-talkies and paging systems for general maintenance and management staff. Amanda?
Thanks, Chris. One of the, again, just to add on to the alerting devices, one of the most important features that come with the system is called the dashboard, the SARA dashboard. And you can access it from any computer, or if you have iPads, or pretty much any device that's on the same network as the SARA. And what it does is basically the best way to explain the dashboard, it's a live representation of what's happening in your building currently. So as you can see here from the example, let's say you had 4 alerts happening at the same time, a pull cord, a pendant, a smoke. Not only are you receiving your alerts to your alerting devices, but you can also see from the dashboard what's going on. So from this example here, all the alerts are white, which means that it's been cleared. What it does is it stays on the dashboard for 20 minutes. If that device is not alert again, it will then be automatically logged into your reports. Now, if any of these alerts were bright red, kind of like you can see that request help button, how it's just solid red, that means that the device is in alert right now live. And you can also click on it and get some more information, who the resident is and their location. But the dashboard is a powerful tool because if you have staff maybe entering some paperwork and they're sitting at a computer, they could have the dashboard up as well, and they could be kind of monitoring what's going on live. Chris, you mentioned something called the e-messenger, which is another way to receive alerts. Maybe you can touch on that.
Thanks, Jack. So as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the things we pride ourselves is on innovation. And the limitations of the past of using wireless phones, pagers, even dashboards, is that it's not mobile. There's no collaboration between staff. You have an issue where the staff really don't have a clear picture of everything going on. Through this application that we developed that runs on a smartphone, staff is able to see everything going on in the community and with their team members. So this really is a mobile dashboard. It's a collaboration and communication tool. In these 3 slides, the first slide or picture that you're seeing is a series of help buttons. This is all completely customizable. So depending on the facility, your staff can now have help buttons at a touch of a button. I've entered a room to support a resident. That resident becomes violent or is having a medical emergency. Staff can now simply tap a single button and the system will go out and look for help while staff can remain their full attention on the individual that they need to care for. The center picture is showing you 3 different alarms, and you can see that they're color-coded. So again, another challenge with older technology is staff is not aware of when an alarm goes off. Is anyone on their way to help? And if someone is, who is on their way, and could they need additional help or support? The screen here will show a display in red saying this is an alarm, that no one is in assistance. You see the next one highlighted in yellow. This is indicating that a staff member has selected to help this resident and is on their way. They have not actually gotten there yet. And green, meaning I'm in the room, I'm helping the person, but I'm not finished. When I complete helping that resident and I clear the alert, only then does it clear off the screen. So the last picture there, you're seeing the 2 alarms have been responded to and cleared. There's a 3rd alarm that is active. There's a lot more built in here, which is difficult to show in a PowerPoint, including live video, images of the resident, and other details related to care. Thanks, Amanda, for changing the slide here. So you'll see in this first slide, the video aspect. So an alert goes off, the system can identify the nearest camera to that alert and push that to your staff live. So imagine a situation where a resident in an independent setting is out in their parking lot, they have a slip and fall, presses their pendant, the system can grab the video feed from your external camera, and when it sends it to your staff, they can see who needs help and they can see a live feed of what's going on. There's also an extension of this application for desktops. So you see the mobile version on the left. On the right, this is a desktop alert, which would be used with nursing staff, at the nursing station, maybe at the concierge, even with the general manager. People that are not normally getting alerts, but if certain escalations occur, this screen can pop up over top of any work that they were doing. So I'm the general manager, I'm working in my office, an alert exceeds certain protocols, this screen will pop over top of that spreadsheet, you know, forcing me to see what's going on and to be able to take action in real time. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. And honestly, since eMessenger has come into the Canadian market, we've been receiving some amazing feedback on it. So thanks for explaining that. So we've talked a lot about all the different devices, all the different integrations, and the big question is, how does it all work together? So I'll hand it over to Amanda to tackle that one.
So you can see by the diagram here, the SARA system, it sits in your community, and that's the middle of the slide there. It's connected to the Status Solutions Network Operations Center, which is always monitoring it. The Network Operations Center take backups of your system, so as changes are made, backups are done. They also make sure the SARA is always on. So your nurses and your PSWs are very busy in the communities. So by the Network Operations Center always monitoring it, if something was to happen to the SARA, it's no longer working for some reason, Status Solutions will call the community and let them know. At the same time, they also call Unity and let us know. As you can see on the screen, the alarms are on one side of the picture, and we spoke about a variety of devices from pendants and pull cords to door sensors, bed pads, and environmental monitoring. The alerts are where they go to. We spoke about a number of different ones that are available, and we recommend that more than one device is used in escalations, and they are programmed at the time of installation. Please note the system also can integrate with many existing systems in your community. Perhaps you're not ready to move to a new nurse call, but you like the idea of eMessenger, for example. We can integrate eMessenger to your existing nurse call system. Or maybe you have an older nurse call system that you would like to switch out, but you don't have the budget. The SARA can integrate to your current nurse call system, but you can put new pull cords or pendants where required and roll out the SARA as the budget allows. In one community, we put in the SARA for mass notification. They are now deploying pull cords in areas that are failing as they don't have the budget to replace the whole nurse call system. Please understand SARA can be put in for one reason or another, and other devices can be added as required. The system can also integrate to other systems. For an example, on the alerting side, you can see the eyes of SARA. If an alarm goes off, it can trigger another system, such as a camera system, to see what's going on in the area of the alarm. And Chris demonstrated that with the eMessenger. You can also see on the diagram that's reporting available on the SARA system. Jack is now going to give an overview of the reports that are available.
Thanks, Amanda. So reporting is definitely a very important feature. There's tons of reports you can pull in the SARA system. We won't have time to go through all of them, but I do want to touch on some of the more important ones. One of the biggest concerns when we talk wireless systems for people, one of their very first questions, how am I going to know if a battery dies? How am I supposed to keep track of all that? The system does it for you. So not only do you get a report every 24 hours, which you can set up to go to as many staff members as you need, that report will give you a quick health check, we call it, of the system. Everything's running great. And it'll also tell you if there are any devices that are in the low battery. So that you know immediately, okay, pull cord in room 201 needs changing. You can also come to your dashboard and check the low battery report, which is in the bottom left. Another big feature that helps with just knowing what's going on in the building in general is the alarm history and the average alarm response time. So what you can do here is you can actually go into these reports and you can pull all the alerts that is happening, and it's very flexible. So let's say you want to see how many alerts did my community get last month. You would go in there, you would select, the last month. Let's say you want to check just on pendants. You select pendant devices and you pull the report. And it's actually going to break everything down into detail for you. It's going to show you the resident, when they called, who answered, what time that first phone answered, how long from start to when that device was cleared, how long it took. And it gives you a really detailed report on every single alert. You can actually export this to an Excel spreadsheet, and there you can make notes, print it out, share it with team members. And then the average alarm response time, what this does is, again, you can break it down by floor in the community, by different levels of care, because some communities have independent assisted living and memory care. And what it'll do is, for that same month, instead of giving you a detailed breakdown, it'll actually just say, last month you had 150 calls. Your average time to respond to alerts is 6 minutes and 30 seconds, right? And so you can see how well your team's doing, if there's any areas of concern. So maybe your average response time is very high. And the reason being is because the resident in 101 pulls or pushes their pendants constantly. And that can maybe let you take a deeper dive into, does that resident need more care? Are they pressing their device at a certain time? Is it for certain reasons? And it can really help you see what's going on in your building and what area you can maybe need some more staffing or less staffing. And it really gives you a great idea. With all the reports, you can export it into an Excel spreadsheet again, whether you have to share it with team members or even family members. Sometimes 2 minutes can seem like a lot when you're in distress. And sometimes residents will say, it took staff an hour to come and help me. And with this tool, you can look back at the alert and say, to the family, and reassure them, our staff is responding in a reasonable time, and here it is. SARA Solutions has seen the benefit of reports and analytics, so they have created something called the Mimi, which we'll talk about at a later presentation. But just know that the reporting function is a powerful tool within the SARA Solutions SARA system. And I'll pass it over to Chris.
Thanks. So just taking a quick aside to what Jack just mentioned with the reports, we've taken this a whole nother step, which is around data analytics and integration to other data from other systems. But it really talks to a bigger picture, which is our strategy around providing care for the full spectrum and not just responding to alerts. Mimi is one project, which we're going to talk about later. The other project is what we call Katie. So this is now moving away from responses to emergencies and more around resident engagement, transforming the resident experience, helping fight loneliness and isolation, finding ways to help their resident be more connected with their friends, their family, the community at large. It is a platform that changes residents' lives, brings them into a technology that allows them to connect with their loved ones the way that we all have been used to, but now geared to seniors. We're going to have a separate seminar around Katie, I just want to very quickly highlight just a few areas regarding this. KD can be used on any smart device. As well, we have launched a number of initiatives inside the KD project. One we call KD Radio. I think one of the things I'm most excited about, it's a radio station geared to this demographic, playing the music of their lives, providing live announcers that are companions, that share information and speak to seniors about what's important to them while playing the music that they grew up to, the music they fell in love with. And it really has been transformative, especially during these times of COVID. We also launched KD TV, simple tool that allows residents to tune to their television station to see news, information, activities going on in your community. And again, all of this tied into the SARA platform. Thirdly, we launched what we call KD Web, a portal through which that is interactive, that includes live video calling so that the residents can talk with their loved ones at any time of day or night. There are no additional licenses or applications to use, developed with seniors in mind to help them keep connected to their loved ones. These tools together really make a huge impact for your staff because it's automating processes. It's allowing the resident to be more engaged and be more self-sufficient. And again, I would like to invite all of you to rejoin when we take a deeper dive into KD and what KD can do for your residents. Amanda?
And that presentation is going to be on March 9th. So I hope that you'll be able to join us for the KD resident engagement demonstration. We've concluded our presentation today, and now we would like to answer your questions. So we do have a question in the chat, and maybe Chris, you can answer that. Do you have wired pulled cords as we're a long-term care home? Chris, would you like to take that question? I think you muted yourself there, Chris. All right, Jack, would you like to take that question?
Sure. There is no specific wired pull cord that comes with the SARA system. However, we can integrate two wired pull cords so that it can still be part of your system if you're in a long-term care and you have that need.
Okay. We have another question here. Does the system run on Wi-Fi? So Jack, would you like to answer that one as well?
Sure. Yeah, the system does not require Wi-Fi for the main SARA system, pendants, pull cords, all the devices. It runs on its own infrastructure, so if the network were to go down, you would not lose the ability to receive your alerts. Things like the application, eMessenger, and KD, but you can also do cellular as a backup. So your main system and your main nurse call, no, does not rely on Wi-Fi.
Okay, thank you. Okay, here's an interesting question, and I don't know if we have you back there, Chris, or not. If you could unmute yourself. So I think this would be a good question for you to take. What are the trends that you see in long-term care? Chris, would you like to take that question? All right, Jack, you're up again. Jack?
Yeah, sorry, I just unmuting there. I was trying to give Chris a second to see if he could get his microphone to work there. Some of the trends we're seeing, and sorry, was it long-term care, Amanda?
Yes, long-term care.
Yeah, long-term care is obviously a little bit different. You know, we're still seeing things, we've been installing, as you know, Amanda, things like dome lights as an additional feature to receive alerts. Pull cords, and even in common areas, just to get some kind of a wider range of security. And then, like Chris kind of alluded to earlier in the presentation, you know, connecting with family members and other people during this time has been very important. So things like the Katie has definitely come into play, right, Amanda? So
Yep.
residents can connect with their families, you know what's going on in the community, right? Obviously, with the pandemic going on, it's a lot harder to have everybody kind of be all in the same room together, and maybe sometimes it's a little more difficult to get information to everybody. And obviously through the Katie, we're seeing that it's quite easy to just update everything, even something as simple as the menu, right? We're having minestrone for lunch today, and it just goes right to their TVs, and the residents can not only keep in touch with their families, but keep in touch with what's going on in the community, and maybe updates on other things, vaccinations and vaccination schedules, and movie nights and things like that. So we're kind of seeing a kind of a mix in the long-term care. Kind of some of the older ways of doing things are kind of staying, but then they're also adapting and bringing in some newer technologies as well.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here. Do we have to have a CCTV system that is compatible with the SARA, or does the SARA work with any CCTV system? Okay, Jack, do you want to take that again?
I'm guessing they're speaking about cameras.
Yes, correct.
As long as it's an IP camera, it'll work with the eyes of SARA.
Which means if it's a newer system, they're generally IP cameras, but if you've had a camera system that's analog, then it may not. But usually it works with any camera system.
Correct, yeah. And I mean, a lot of the times, a lot of the camera systems are IP. I think
Yes.
we've maybe run into one analog in all the years.
I hope that answers your question. Okay. I'll just wait another minute to see if we have any other questions. Okay. So I guess that's it for our questions. Thank you very much. I think we had some great questions there. This would conclude our session. Thank you, Chris, for joining and taking the time to review the SARA with us today. We'd like to thank you, the audience, for joining our session. As mentioned, our next in the series is on March 9th, and Chris will join us again for the demonstration of the Katie, which is the resident engagement we spoke about briefly today. And the last one in our series is on March 23rd, when we will review the physical security needs for the communities, and we'll focus on wander management, security doors, and cameras. And we'll be sending a copy of this presentation to you. Oh, we just got another question. So what is the average cost of the system? So that varies. So it depends on your location and what you require for the system itself. But we can certainly, once we have an understanding of your community, we can certainly give you an idea of what the cost would be for yours. We spend a lot of time on budget pricing because we realize that this is something that has to be budgeted for. And as we mentioned through the presentation, some communities start with one thing, integrate what they currently have, and then roll out more things to the system itself. So It's a hard question to answer depending on what your needs are, but certainly reach out to us and we will be able to give you an idea of it, a high level budget price for your particular community. And it's going to depend if you're, one floor, if you're, how big your suites are, if you're long-term care home, if you're 150 beds, or if you're 300 beds, or if you're a retirement community and you're, 24 stories high. So it's difficult to answer that question of cost without knowing a little bit more about your community. But certainly reach out to us. In the meantime, we'll be happy to answer that question once we understand a little bit more about you. And anybody else who has any questions, please reach out. We thank everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you all on March 9th. Thank you.